I grew up singing a hymn on Father's Day called Faith of Our Fathers. Anyone heard of this? Standing there beside my dad and hearing him sing this hymn is one of my earliest formative memories of the holiday. Formative memories like this one recede into the background of our awareness over time, and yet they're always there, impacting and informing us. Our life experiences echo across time, be they the memory of a keening old hymn or the kiss of a loved one, rituals like the one that I did of gathering a flower and pinning it on, white for a father who's died, one who has a father who's died, red for one whose father is still alive. Our earliest experiences especially impact how we understand the world, experience the world, and who we are. We are always learning about what it means to be human. These are our imprints, our impressions. Earlier significant relational or cultural experiences impact how we learn our place in the world and what it means. The lyrics to the hymn Faith of Our Fathers tells the story of my ancestors, maybe some of your ancestors from England, who suffered religious persecution, but refused to give up their spiritual attachment to their beliefs. As a kid, I didn't really think about this. The lyrics washed over me. But looking back, they're pretty intense, as many Christian hymns are. These people who suffered from persecution but continued to be steadfast to their beliefs, this is what being faithful means in this particular hymn. The faith of our fathers. While chained in dungeons, imprisoned for their beliefs, these forefathers remained steadfast in the convictions of their hearts. Faith of our fathers furthermore uplifts love and kindness over violence as cornerstones of a virtuous life. However, I don't really want to preach today about Christian martyrdom. I'm just sharing my personal story and my imprint as an invitation for you, for us to reflect on the myriad messages that we have received about fathers over the course of our lives, whether direct or indirect, such as words that are sung around us and to us that we don't even fully know, yet we are absorbing kinesthetically. So I ask you, what is fatherhood to you? Do you have a connection with your patrilineage? What messages have you received about fatherhood? Who are the archetypal fathers in your life? Those who hold the role in your life or in our culture. Maybe people we see on TV, or who embody sacred texts or historical narratives, who speak to us through story or lived experience, and who perpetuate the message and meaning of fatherhood. So to reflect back on this hymn, I don't personally believe that fathers must be martyrs, like this childhood hymn of mine decrees. In fact, I strongly disagree with the second verse. Maybe I have a little wrestling to do with it, which states, "Our fathers chained in prisons dark were still in heart and conscience free." I mean, that's beautiful. But it continues, "And blessed would be their children's fate if they, like them, should die for thee, thee being God." This is something I don't want to see as a blessing. Perhaps I have wrestling to do with this. While I honor the loving conviction that those who are imprisoned can still find a place of freedom within their own souls, I do not believe that my fate as the descendant of a culture of religious persecution and martyrdom would somehow be blessed if I also died for a religious cause. I don't want that for myself and for us. Quite the contrary, I don't want there to be SUVs in Culpeper running through the streets when people are celebrating the need to be free. I don't believe that martyrdom is a blessing for me or for you or for the world. I'm a little upset about it, to be honest. Is it brave? Sure. Heroic? One might say so. But maybe it's also torturous and ludicrous. Maybe it's not what God, if there is a God, wants at all for people to die in God's name. I would think that a loving God wouldn't want that. Maybe that's the universalist in me. I don't think a loving God would want that at all. So music upon this hymn, Faith of Our Fathers, and also on the confluence of Father's Day and Juneteenth, which has somehow become this dual or merged holiday in our culture over the last several years because of their proximity, but maybe also because of something more. Got me wondering about the first word in the hymn's title, faith, and also freedom, which is a subject within it. What does it mean to be free? Free in one's spirit, even when chained. This hymn uplifts fathers who weren't actually free. They weren't free to practice their religion safely, but whose spirits, even while imprisoned, even while being murdered in horrible ways, could not be chained spiritually. They were faithful to their beliefs, even while persecuted. And Juneteenth honors a different kind of freedom, right? A freedom from this persecution. Not religious persecution, but actually the persecution of people to live freely at all, not just religiously, but in their very lives, in their basic day-to-day lives, a freedom to live all of life unchained. And in addition, Juneteenth acknowledges the time that it took for this freedom not only to be granted, but to be fully acknowledged and realized and communicated and actualized. The word Juneteenth, as probably most of you all know, is a fusing of June and 19th, because it was on June 19th, 1865, that the Union General Gordon Granger stood on the balcony of a prominent building in Galveston, Texas, and read aloud General Order Number 3, which said, in part, "The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that of employer and hired labor." President Abraham Lincoln had proclaimed these people's freedom some 3.5 years earlier, as we know. I think TikTok would have spread it a little faster these days. 3.5 years earlier. And yet, these now formerly enslaved people in Galveston, Texas, were hearing these words for the very first time. In the years that followed, leading up to today, a movement has arisen to memorialize this day. It is now mostly a holiday in almost all of America. I don't know about you, but for me, the holiday of Juneteenth is wonderful and awful, right? It's incredible that we can celebrate the freedom that it represents, and then there is, in the words of a minister from the UU Church in Charlottesville, forgive me, their name wasn't recognized in the article that I found, who preached on the same subject, quote, "A river of pain that runs through our nation's history. There is a river of torment and torture, a river of separation and segregation and dehumanization and demonization, a river that has never stopped flowing ever." They continue, "The slaves weren't freed when Lincoln declared their emancipation, nor when General Granger stood on that balcony. nor when President Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act of 1965, nor when Barack Obama was sworn in as the 44th president of the same United States in which his wife's ancestors had been enslaved. Certain freedoms, yes, have been grudgingly conceded, but real freedom? The freedom to be and be seen as whole, as the individual you are and as part of the human family? The freedom to have your value and worth affirmed and celebrated? That has not yet been won, not yet wrested from the slaver's fist, end quote. So I'm not presenting you with anything new here in this sermon, especially on the Sunday after No King's Day, when many in our nation are steeling ourselves against systemic injustice and protesting the rising tyranny that threatens to cloak our nation. What I'd like to be able to do, and this is so small, would be to offer some sort of antidote, some sort of serum that would allow us to continue as we do the work of mending the broken world. And while the hymn of my childhood isn't exactly the right antidote for our time, I do believe that it's an example of medicine. It's not exactly the right for this moment, but it holds within it the secret medicine that we need, or something that's helped humans in the past and can continue to help us in the present. And that's simply poetry, music, words that carry meaning, that help us carry on. Whether sung or spoken, words strung together that create meaning, that sustains us and helps us seek beauty, keep striving towards spirit, keep holding steady to what we've put our faith in. And also actions like the ones many participated in yesterday, which are a different kind of church, which are like an IV for the spirit, right? Poets across time have written their hearts into their words. They are the originators of the sacred texts, actually. And there are poets of today who sing to us words of freedoms, who call us to carry on. And I was thinking that I might include some older poets here who seemed recent to me, and then as I was writing, I realized there's a newer poet whose poem is actually quite old to us now, Amanda Gorman, who came to mind. Gosh, can you think of the time? Just over 4 years ago, Amanda Gorman recited her poem, The Hill We Climb, at the inauguration of President Joe Biden. When invited to write a poem for the inauguration, Gorman turned to the work of past inaugural poets like Robert Frost and Maya Angelou to study them. She talked with Richard Blanco and Elizabeth Alexander, who were living inaugural poets. She researched orators like Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King Jr., and Winston Churchill. And after the invitation to deliver an inaugural poem was given to Gorman on December 30th, 2020, she began to write several lines per day and was about halfway done by January 6th. 2021, when the Capitol was stormed. And in an interview, Gorman noted that the storming of the Capitol marked the day the poem really came to life. And she finished it that evening, the second half. So I invite you to hear now these words by Amanda Gorman from her inaugural poem, The Hill We Climb. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge a union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. So we lift our gaze not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true, that even as we grieved, we grew. Even as we hurt, we hoped. That even as we tried, that even as we tired, we tried. That we'll forever be tied together victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one should make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all of the bridges we've made. That is the promise to glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare it. Because being American is more than the pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, that would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy, and this effort very nearly succeeded. She's speaking of January 6th. But while democracy can periodically be delayed, but it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith, we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption we feared in its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So while once we asked, how can we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burden. But one thing is certain: if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the golden hills of the West. We will rise from the windswept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. Forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful when the day comes We step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light if we're only brave enough to see it. If only we're brave enough to be it. So friends, I ask us today, on this day, are we still brave enough to be it? Does the faith of our forefathers, those who cherished the vision of freedom, those who carried the message of freedom over miles to deliver it to Galveston, can you imagine? Does this faith live on in us today? And how do we continue to protect the lamp of hope when the storm of tyranny threatens to douse it out? Full freedom is not yet here, but neither is it unreachable. It is something that I, for one, still believe in, and I know many of us do, or we at least want to. I know that there are those among us this morning who believe in it too, and I invite you now to reflect on what freedom means to you in this moment. And what our fathers did, our forefathers did or did not teach us about how to uplift and protect it. And what we who live today are charged with doing to create even greater freedom for those to come. I will close with words of Maya Angelou because I just can't resist, but I won't read the whole poem. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of the things unknown but longed for still. And his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom.